welcome back to Project Soch, where we talk about all things South Asia. So, today I thought it would be interesting to compare perspectives. I've always wondered how growing up in a South Asian household affects the way one looks at life and approaches different cultural and political phenomena. So, in order to do that, today I've got two of my friends here with me. Wakar, who grew up in an exclusively Desi household and lived in Karachi, Pakistan for the majority of his life, and Spike, who grew up in a British American household in Chicago, Illinois. I'm going to ask them a series of questions on as wide a range of topics as I can think of, and through that conversation, we should hopefully be able to get a peek into how their different upbringings may have affected the way they see the world. With that, let's get on into the video.
Hi, my name is Spike Jackson. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, and I'm a law student at the University of Edinburgh. And I grew up in a primarily Hispanic neighborhood. I would not say it was particularly Desi, although Devon Street was the Desi neighborhood next to ours.
Hi, I'm Wakar Mustaqim. I'm born and bred Karachi, Pakistan. Very Desi. Not multicultural at all. I came to the UK about 5 years ago and I'm working in banking as a key worker here.
So I did quite a bit of acting when I was younger, and I live in a family of artists. So my dad's a musician, a photographer. My mom works in advertising, and for me that was always kind of the presumed outlet. As I got older, some of the things in my life changed, and the kind of weight of that decision played upon what I wanted to leave, because I suppose I'm a little bit arrogant. And law became kind of the option, which was a disappointment to my parents.
Sold your soul to the devil, didn't you?
Yeah, they were just, wow, you're kind of lame, was the response.
Don't be surprised when you're not in the will. So, as a child, I wanted to become a livestock farmer because I love animals. When I say I love animals, I also love to eat meat. So, not that kind of love animals. Um, I think many of your Desi viewers would think that there must be a lot of pressure on me from my household to become a certain occupation because my mom did medicine. She left medicine then and then did history and literature, and then my father's an engineer. But I was given a free hand. So when I was in O levels, I wanted to do PPE, become a politician, but then I realized politics is not very easy in Pakistan or anywhere, to be honest, at the moment. So I went more towards mathematics. I think even the last day before the Common App, I was wondering whether to apply for economics or mathematics. And then one day my mum came and she said, "Oh, actuarial science has a lot of money." And I said, "Oh, maths and money, why not?" So I'm now in banking. I'm helping Britain prosper, as the motto is.
Yes and no. It's quite nuanced. I definitely followed the path that I set myself prior to going to uni by taking law. But having gone through the courses and a few years, I've changed tact on what I want to pursue after uni, and that has changed what I'm now going to do during my time at university.
Well, unlike Mr. Stalin, I'd never had a 5 year or a 10 year plan. So I didn't know what I wanted to really be. It's more of a up in the air, kind of impulsive kind of guy.
I hope that's where the comparison,
Starts.
begins, and there's more.
Yeah, no comment on that. This is going live. So I did end up sort of doing what I wanted to do. I ended up in an insurance firm at the moment, did actuarial science for insurance. I would say yes, but then again, I had no plan. So
As a kid, no, not not till probably the 2008 Barack Obama campaign. That's because my mom worked with David Plouffe, Barack Obama's campaign manager, and my dad, I guess, knew the weight of this particular occasion coming from a workplace and a culture that's primarily black. And for me, at that age, I was also able to come to my own understanding. So that's really when the dialogue started in the household. Do I think it's important? 100%. I do think that there should maybe be an appropriate age where you do allow for discussion to be both ways, because we're seeing that a lot of people just kind of repeat what their parents told them, and that isn't perhaps the most constructive way to learn about politics or to develop your own opinions. And so maybe avoiding that to a later date, in terms of when kids develop some inference capabilities, would be wise.
When do you think they develop those capabilities?
Well, apparently you have to be like 12 years old before algebraic level is a capability, and if you're before 12, it's you're gifted in that comprehension. So I'd imagine politics is slightly more difficult, unfortunately, than algebra.
Yeah. Okay. So coming from a fairly apolitical family, we had no interest in politics whatsoever. And I think growing up in Karachi, we knew one party which would always win, MQM, Altaf Bhai, where my Saathi is at. Woohoo. So I think my political awakening sort of was in 2008, 2007, but not because of Barack Obama, not at all. Because that's when Benazir Bhutto came back to Pakistan after a 10-year exile. So I think there was a lot going on. It was end of the military dictatorship, so there was some impetus within the country. I think with just discussing politics, it's most of the drawing room discussing politics. None of us have actually, been actively involved in politics. Speaking to your children about politics, I mean, politics in the US is different from Pakistan, definitely. I mean, social media has really helped with that. So we see Trump, we see Imran Khan, we see all of these social media stuff going on. So I think probably children are getting more developed in a political sense due to social media. That's probably just accelerating it, I would say so. But it is important, but I don't think it's it shouldn't be at the forefront, in my opinion.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I'll keep my answer in the context of U.S. politics. So when I give my left or right feedback, know that is the context in which I'm giving it.
I'm pretty sure Bernie Sanders is left throughout globally.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. So yeah, I did vote for Bernie Sanders in both 2016 and 2020 primaries. I would definitely categorize myself as left-leaning in the United States. That doesn't mean I adopt the universal policies expected of Democrats. But for the most part, on social issues, yeah, I'm probably very left on a lot of things. Less so when it comes to the economic side of maybe my counterparts on the social aspect of politics.
Are you a Tory?
Hell no. But that doesn't mean that Tories are incapable of making good policy.
Yeah, I agree. I would sit sensibly in the center. Following some wise advice from people. I think I do have some left-leaning tendencies in the social aspect, but nothing too revolutionary.
You sure, buddy? Come on over. Come on over.
We're recording. Yeah, but I think from an economic perspective, sometimes maybe a bit right. So it sort of cancels out. I'm smack in the middle.
Domestic policy at the moment is definitely at the forefront of my concern. So I went to law school because I wanted to do human rights and environmental rights in primarily dealing with immigration. So right now in the United States, I think in April, I think it's 1,200 kids, if not 1,500 kids, went missing in ICE detention camps, and there have been rumors, which is not the apt term, that those kids then go into sexual slavery. I'm a first generation or second generation American, so the immigration story is my story. Now that doesn't mean that makes it any more important than it would be if I wasn't, but it certainly does have a kind of slap in the face feel when I see people with similar processes who aren't my complexion suffer a completely different battle from my own. And this reflects a lot of the United States in terms of its racial economic history and how it's tackling it, which impacts myself via my friends and family and loved ones.
He's our in-house white Hassan Minaj.
I'm not nearly as groomed.
Political movement, for me, the partition of the Indian subcontinent, always remember. But I don't think there's any movement that I've sort of been emotionally invested in, to be honest. So I'm sympathetic to all these movements, not taking anything away from what's going on either in the United States or in Palestine or in Kashmir or anywhere else. I think speaking of Kashmir, I think Kashmir is a sort of a pertinent issue at the moment. But from emotional investment, I sort of tend to not get too involved, which is probably a bad thing.
A banker that doesn't invest.
We invest, but not emotionally. It's gonna be a long one.
No, unfortunately, I am quite boring. I do dabble with the keys. Music runs quite heavy in the family, but I'm definitely the family runt when it comes to the potential there. I do quite a lot of reading, so my family extends to Japan, and one of the things that they showed me was manga, and so I do a lot of manga reading, which is definitely a guilty pleasure. And
What is that?
so, I mean, it's basically a graphic novel that reads from the wrong side.
Graphic novel.
That's how I would euphemize it, yes.
Okay. So comics.
Yes. Yeah, they're comics, but there's some serious quality emotions displayed. Yeah, so bar that, I play football occasionally. I'm a huge Leeds United fan. Yeah, massive. I force all these people to watch, and let's go, Marcelo Bielsa. So yeah, these are kind of the things that I tend to do when they are available to me.
So, in terms of hobbies, I've rode for about 8 years. Can't do that now because it's too far away in London. But I'd love to take up rowing again. I started horse riding again, but then this lockdown isn't letting me continue with that. So, well, indoors, I tend to read, but I'm not a religious reader. So I've been trying to finish a book for about a year now, and then I started three more books in two different languages.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of read it whenever I feel like it. And then I think, yeah, I mean, when if you talk about sports, I think it's more of a cricket, watch more cricket than football. But Leeds United is shit. Um, no offense there. I think that's it.
No, not excel academically. Yes, there was always a minimum standard to attain, which was the highest standard for my parents. But a huge portion of me going to university and pursuing that was meeting and like networking and expanding my horizons culturally. Um, this is true. So my mom, for an example, just to give some context, she has a degree in library science and somehow made it to like one of the leading women in advertising, which is not a degree that really translates. And my dad went to art school, so the whole idea of kind of academic marks and rigor isn't necessarily ingrained in my family's culture. It's more like, you know, if you want this, you do this for yourself. But ultimately, if you fail, we will be disappointed. But it's not like a major pressure.
So for me, it was obviously there was some pressure to excel, but not in a very typical way, as you'd expect, and not a stereotypical way. I think it was just because I am and was a lazy ass. So it was more like just giving me that, just pushing me forward to
Apply yourself.
apply myself. And obviously, and no one puts you spoke about standards. Everyone wants someone to, or their child to go up to the highest standard.
Right.
No one says B plus is fine. Some people do, but it's not fine. It's not fine. Yeah, I think it wasn't a crazy environment. It's if you can do it, then do it to your full potential. And if my parents think that the certain child does not have the full potential, they won't push them forward. So there are different standards, keeping in mind the capability of the child.
Do you think we represent our demographic in our pressure from our parents? Like, from my experience, I don't think I represent the demographic of law students and their like my peers' parents' expectations on them academically.
I think so, because I think most of the stereotype for Asians, South Asians, I mean, you've seen spelling bee in the US.
Killing the bee.
Exactly. So it's not constant pressure. So I don't think I'm a good representation of that stereotype.
I'm gonna sound like an egomaniac.
You definitely are.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So for me, what I want to achieve is an impact on my community. It doesn't have to be
Which
like
community?
outside. Yeah, it doesn't have to be outside, like even my friendship circle or my neighborhood or even my city. But having been able to have a pretty unique experience growing up and coming here and living in a neighborhood where those type of stories are not the norm. I would like to be able to use my privilege to help people who aren't as privileged. And it's also a way for me to know that I've lived, like the mark that I leave on other people, and vice versa. So for me, that's a metric. So it's like the friends that I've collected, and the stories that I can share. That is probably the metric I'd use.
What you didn't succeed in was making me tea because it's lukewarm. First of all,
I'm flawed.
yeah. Thank God he agreed on that. I, on the other hand, am a very humble being, not as egomaniac as our friend Spike Jackson here. So I believe that one should look at people who are not as privileged as the others, definitely, and just count your blessings. So I'm very sort of happy like that. However, there's a however. I think being successful does have that sort of impact. What you talked about earlier on. I think leaving an impact, a positive impact rather.
I suppose. I mean, that's kind of arguable.
You don't want to leave a Donald Trump-esque impact, which is probably not positive.
But I imagine he satisfies his own metric as well as quite a lot of people's metrics of being successful.
Yeah. So I think impacts very very pertinent in that, and it's just the journey. So if you've from where did you start off from, and where did you end up? So it's sort of that distance, or rather the displacements. For the maths people out there, the displacement that you've sort of covered in your life, basically. I like the story part of yours. You'll be that one of those old white men in a cave, like a hermit, telling stories to people.
Well, that's the thing that kind of I miss in Western white culture, is that we do have a lack of like storytellers, really, at least in terms of like face-to-face or oral history, isn't really appreciated. But that's another topic. Another thing is freedom. So independence and being able to pursue what you want to do, regardless of maybe the economics or the upbringing that you weren't.
The Second Amendment.
Not really that. It's more like I wanted to be an astronaut, and I came from a family that was not able to become that because of the limitations, like let's say on education and finances, and then being able to pursue that, even if it's not like you're not the best astronaut, like that's still a major success story.
Maybe you still can. The Space Force is being made.
Yeah.
Boots by 2024.
Well, if I'm working under Steve Carell, I'd like to maybe, a more effective organization, perhaps.
Fair enough.
So I hope you all really enjoyed that. I found it fascinating how divergent and yet how similar their views are, despite the obvious differences in race and culture. This is meant to be a fun, casual way to think about how our upbringing affects our views on the world, and to show that, just maybe, we're not so different after all. If you enjoyed that, don't forget to like and subscribe to see more from Project Soch. And look out for episode 2, dropping on Sunday the 14th. As always, for questions, comments, concerns, all our socials are at Project Soch. Sound off in the comments below with what you think about this style of video and what you would like to see next. Be happy, take care of yourselves and those around you, and I'll see you next time. Bye!